Have you ever run into, have a sneaky kid or had any kind of interaction with a sneaky kid, a kid who you think is constantly trying to get away with things, trying to be dishonest, trying to manipulate, trying to deceive? Man, we run into a lot of families where parents are struggling with this and they're just at a loss for what to do and how to change these dynamics. Well, you'll hear us say this a lot. Change always begins with us. We are the ones that hold a lot, if not most, of the power to change these dynamics, to raise kids that want to be honest, that want to not go behind your back, but actually want to co-create a different relationship with you. And today we're going to give you the clear why behind that, explain what's behind that, what's going on, how come kids are so sneaky. But then we're going to give you 5 clear steps that you can take today to start changing that. And we're going to hit you with some amazing questions, 3 specific questions that I think when you hear these reflective questions and start noticing these things in your home that are going to lead to dramatic change in the relationship between you and your child, to where your child will no longer feel the need to be sneaky, that they'll actually find honesty feels very, very good because you've created the environment to where it feels that way. So if you haven't already, please take a moment to stop, review, comment. We love to hear feedback from you. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and even on YouTube. We do all this stuff on video. So if you prefer video format, go to Art of Raising Humans for that. And also, if you listen to this and you're thinking, man, I'd love to get more help, more coaching on how to change this, definitely reach out to me at Kyle@artofraisinghumans.com. Love to connect with you and talk about ways in which we could help you and your family. So sit back, get ready to enjoy this episode because we're going to change these dynamics in your family today.
Welcome to the Art of Raising Humans.
The Art of Raising Humans is a podcast designed to support, equip, and encourage parents on how to create long-lasting, deeply connected relationships with their kids that's free from fear and shame. Come join us on the journey. Welcome to the Art of Raising Humans. I am Kyle.
Hi there, everyone. I'm Sarah.
And Sarah, we all know, we've all had these experiences with kids who can be sneaky.
Yes.
Can seem like they're very good at getting away with stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can seem manipulative. They seem like they know how to, act like one way in front of your face and do something behind your back, right? And so we're tying this into our last week's discussion where we're talking about how to help your kids open up, how we communicate with our kids matter, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of parents will come, and I know you and I both heard this when we were helping parents, how sneaky their kid is or how they're dishonest their kid is. Mm-hmm. And many times you and I look at it as if like sneaky behavior, it's not a character flaw, right? It's just not. It is a strategy, and strategies are learned, right? So yeah. So speak a little bit about that. Strategies are learned, yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, these kids, it's actually part of being an intelligent child. It's actually part of development. And they're thinking, how do I handle this next moment? It doesn't matter if it's learning to walk, learning to ride a bike, or getting what I want. I want that cookie. How can I get that cookie?
I know.
And so it's not a bad thing. We're applauding it when it's bicycle riding, but we're not. But we have to just reframe that and go, oh, they're figuring out strategies. They're trying out different options.
You know what you're doing? You're making me want to share a story. Because I'm thinking here, what parents need to know is when kids hide, lie, or sneak, they're communicating something about safety, power, fear, or unmet needs. It's not a moral failure. So that makes me think about.
No, so it's not a moral failure. I think we feel like it is. We're worried, right? We get scared. My kid, look what they're turning into. They're a horrible person.
Well, it makes me think about something that I was very sneaky about. And this was.
You were this child.
It makes me think about in second grade, we were learning cursive. And I did not want to learn cursive. I thought cursive was super boring. And in my mind, my teacher had not explained to me why cursive was valuable. And I did not like cursive because my grandmother would write me letters in cursive and I could not read them. And so I thought, why would I do this? Why would I confuse people by writing ways people cannot? That's what my little 7-year-old mind.
So I think that's a valuable moment. Just to pause for a second. Your teacher might have felt like she did a fantastic job.
Yes.
And your
Mrs. Burns, you were great.
and your grandmother was writing these really caring notes to you. So we just have to hold in this moment. It's a great example of when I think the adults had one perspective But the 7-year-old had a different perspective. And that's not, one wasn't right, wrong. The parents didn't do a good enough job, or the kid was a horrible kid. It's just like, this is the moment as it was.
So in my 7-year-old mind, every Friday we're doing cursive. She gives us these worksheets, this workbook, and we're supposed to fill this out. I found this incredibly boring. So I thought to myself, I noticed my teacher, I thought, I don't think she's grading this. So once again, like, it's the school system that taught me, like, you do these things to get a grade. So if you're not grading this, why am I doing this? So I noticed there was a kid in my class. He was always a little bit above me. He was kind of the teacher's pet. So I thought, I am going to take his work when he turns it in, and I'm going to erase it and put my name. And then he's not going to have a sheet. And I seriously, as a 7-year-old, watched and observed that a whole week to see if Mrs. Burns would talk to him. And she did not pull him aside ever. And I thought to myself, she is not looking at this work. So every Friday, I would just rip those sheets out. She would look at my workbook, and I would be caught up. And I never learned how to write in cursive. And I felt very proud of myself. But that's an example where I wasn't trying to do anything evil. I just really, in my mind, it perfectly made sense. I didn't understand why everybody else was doing it.
You were thinking this is going to lead to a life of crime and being a manipulative, mean person.
No.
Yes.
And I could share more stories, but I don't want to disparage myself on it. But that was just where my brain was thinking at 7 years old, right? And so we understand parents are having these experiences. My parents didn't even know about that one. But if you've ever caught your child sneaking, hiding screens, lying about homework, or omitting details in a story, this episode is for you. You can definitely relate to this. Sneaky behavior hits a deep nerve, I think, for everybody, because it triggers fear, it triggers betrayal. And the question starts to come in, can I trust you? Can I trust anything you're doing?
Yeah. Honestly, it erodes trust, and that's reasonable. So that's okay.
And often I think the bigger fear is, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Like, why did I raise a kid who's constantly like, I can't trust you. The teacher seemed to can't trust you.
Right.
So sneakiness, just so you know, is really common in middle childhood and adolescence. So there, I was right in line with that. So middle child, and it often peaks when autonomy increases, but trust hasn't yet caught up.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that there?
So kids are you'll notice, the little ways this is happening, and then it grows.
Yeah.
And as that autonomy, it's like, okay, I'm my own. Autonomy is that I'm my own person. I'm figuring out my way. We need people to do that, right? Everyone needs to figure out who they are and their way in this world, because they're not going to live as your little child forever. And so they're trying out different things. And so those things will mix in there naturally. Oh, what about this? And what about that? And they're kind of sorting through all that in their brain.
Yeah, so we want to kind of first talk about why are kids and teens sneaky, and the why really does matter, because it determines how you perceive the behavior. It determines how you talk about it, because that's a lot of what I'm doing. When a parent comes in and tells me that their kid is sneaky, I spend a little time. I want to reframe that understanding, because I didn't feel like I was doing anything wrong as a little kid. I just thought I was understanding the system, and I didn't want to do it their way, so I just did it a different way. So sneakiness is.
But I would say, honestly, even if you did know you were doing something wrong, that doesn't take away from the fact that it still was the strategy, right? Because you got to think through that kid's mind. What do I need? What do I want? What's happening here? And they're making sense of it in their world, right? Because that's in our world, we're thinking, no, you need this because you're going to grow up and there's going to be cursive handwriting, and you need this because it's character and you're honest but that's not the same mindset a child is operating from, or a teenager is operating from. And that's really important to hold, that they don't have our same agenda. They don't have our same priorities. So even though we think it's such an obvious character flaw, that's not the space they're in.
That's why you're on this podcast. That's good. It's really good, honey. No, it's really good how you reframe that. Yeah, because I said that almost too quickly, so I like how you reframed it there. Sneakiness, though, is a learned survival strategy. I mean, you definitely see this, Sarah. I know you worked with some kids who'd really been in abusive situations. And it's almost like, when I see parents who've adopted or done foster with, they will say, oh, I can see that. You can see how they've done that to survive, because it was, but it's happening on a similar scale, just a little different in homes where there isn't that going on, right? Because kids start to adapt to their environments. If honesty feels unsafe, the brain will choose protection over truth, which that just makes sense. You would do the same thing in your work environment. You would do the same thing,
Yeah. I mean, you want to be protected. You want to feel safe, and your brain is going to prioritize protection every time.
Yeah, the nervous system will ask this question: what keeps me out of trouble or connected? So, what keeps me out of trouble or connected? Sneaky behavior often forms when truth leads to punishment, shame, or emotional withdrawal. So, I want to go back to that again, because what keeps me out of trouble or connected? So, I try to tell parents here that kids learn to tell stories that their parents actually want to hear.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of stupid to keep telling you stories you don't want to hear, because you're gonna get really mad. So they're watching, and it's, once again, it's even the ways we do it. Like, I try to tell parents, I tell you stories in a way that I think is going to be more palatable. That doesn't mean I'm being dishonest. It means I've learned how to tell you that, because I think if I say it the other way, it's going to hurt your feelings. If I say it this way, like, it's all about adapting to that individual you're talking to.
Well, I think about people on stage. Really good public speakers, right? Honestly, that's kind of what they are, right? They've read the audience. They're so good at feeling the shift in the audience and the reactions to what they're saying. And I've heard even you sometimes that people who are so good on stage, they notice these little nuances, these little shifts that are happening, and then they craft their story or what they're saying. And we in the audience would applaud that. We think, wow, what a great public speaker, right? But our children, they pick up on that too. And not even intent, they're not watching you trying to think it just happens. They're picking up on your tone, that little facial expression that changed slightly. And they don't want to lose you, that connection, that relationship. Maybe there's punishment on the line as well. So not only might I get some punishment, some consequence, but then I'm also going to lose your positive thoughts of me. Not, it could be shame and guilt, but it could even just be, I want you to think I'm great.
Well, Sarah,
now you're not going to think I'm
Sarah,
great.
how often have we been helping kids and the kid will tell the parent not to tell us what happened? And it isn't because the kid doesn't necessarily want to own up to it. The kid thinks you or I, as the therapist, like them and enjoy them.
Right.
And they're so afraid it's going to change that.
And I would take it a step even further. We do work really, really hard, right, to have this positive intent and care, and we're always sharing that. But losing our relationship is not the same as the risk of losing their parents.
That's good.
So how much more, are they risking to go to the parent with that truth?
Yeah, that's good. It's really good. Once again, dude. Great. Okay. The number 2 is this fear of disappointment is a huge driver. And even as I'm saying that, I'm thinking, sometimes we want that. Like, we want that. We want that to be a huge driver. We want our kids to be very worried about disappointing us. So many kids lie not to get away with something, but to actually preserve belonging and connection with you, especially in families where approval feels really conditional,
Yeah.
And that's really common in a lot of families. And whether
it's so easy to slip into as a parent, where you're like, oh, you did that, and you give them that look of, you better shut your mouth right now, or you better whatever it is, and mixed in there is this, I pull back a little.
Yeah. And actually, Sarah, I will have kids who be like, they're fine with if a parents are doing some kind of punishment stuff, or they're actually fine doing, doing whatever you ask, but it's really that disapproval that really bothers them. Like, why do you think I'm so bad? Why do you think I'm so wrong? Just give me, sometimes they're like, just give me the whatever punishment, just get it over with. I don't want to deal with this other thing, because that's more hurtful. And they're actually many times they're not avoiding consequences. They're just avoiding that disconnection. And that fear.
To be told you don't belong until you shape up, so to speak,
Yep. So number 3 is control without collaboration is always going to breed secrecy. So let me say that again. Control without collaboration will breed secrecy. Kids do well when they can. When kids feel controlled instead of partnered with, or as we call it, like co-creating, they just go underground. They go dark. Sneakiness increases when kids feel over-monitored. I mean, that just makes sense. Micromanage. We all do that. You ever had a micromanager at work? You get a little sneaky. You're like, I'm not going to tell you everything, because as soon as I do, we're going to have a meeting about that.
I'm not even sure. They might even like what you're doing, but it's that constant, like, I don't know which way this is going to go over every little thing.
No, I'll say to them, well, do you want to talk to your parents about it? No, because they have no trust that that's going to, they think really they're going to get micromanaged. So not trusted with age-appropriate freedom. They're hearing from their friends that this seems to be something other parents will, whatever. And it's not necessarily comparing that, but they'll start hearing that. So they will start thinking You don't trust me. I'll hear that a lot. My parents don't trust me. That's why they're micromanaging me. And the parents will then turn it back. Well, we're micromanaging because you're so sneaky. Like it's this in this back and forth.
Right.
It's just like dance.
This starts going
Yeah.
back and forth.
So that's why we're big on change begins with me. You know, because I will talk to these kids, Sarah, and I'll say to them, well, why not just do this? That will help your parents. Like, and the kids will even try it sometimes, but then they'll find the parents don't change. They continue. They don't believe it. They're like, nah, I think even that good thing you did, that's you being sneaky.
We're just in the best position to create the change anyway.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of like a work environment where you could ask the employees to change it, but how much more powerful it's going to be if the boss says, I want a supportive environment. I want this. And if they come in with that, that's a lot more powerful than one little employee going, I'm going to change the system.
That's true.
You know, so I think we're just in a better place.
That's another great metaphor. I love that. It's really good. And number 4, developmentally, their brains are wired for it. What do we mean by that? Well, adolescents they're experimenting with their independence, right? They're highly sensitive to perceived judgment by you and everybody else. And they're less
That's why they have to have that pair of shoes or that, you know, because
we've all been there. Oh my gosh, buy me those jeans. I need those. Less skilled at long-term consequence forecasting, meaning it's hard for them to think ahead and see the long-term outcomes. That's why they do so many more impulsive things that are they're caught up in the moment. So sneaking is often just a clumsy attempt at autonomy, at what they perceive to be freedom. And many times parents have framed it that way, that freedom is something they give and take away. So the kids are like, well, I'll just find freedom in a different way. I'll be sneaky. So this is not permission. It's just context. It's giving you context to understand why they're being sneaky.
Yeah, they're trying to make their decisions. And we all like to make our decisions, right? So it's not really a fault of theirs that they also want to. Of course, we may have a more mature brain. We may have, 10 cookies a day isn't going to be really great for you. So I really think we should limit that. You shouldn't be sneaking those cookies. But it's because we're operating from a different place where they're saying, I want this and I'm going to try this out and I want to make my own decisions and I want to stay out late for curfew or I do or don't want to do that homework, right? Because they're just trying to make their decisions and do that autonomy thing that they're supposed to be doing.
And so this we know this change is very hard for parents, or this kind of seeing sneakiness in a different way. And it's hard because parents feel betrayed by it. They feel disrespected. They're afraid, rightly so, of bigger risk and things are going to happen.
For sure.
And personally rejected by it. They feel like the kid doesn't care about them. If I don't come down hard on my kid, all this is just going to get worse. And we'll hear that stuff. If I don't come down, it's just going to get worse. If I trust them, am I being naive? Am I just falling for it?
That's a really big one.
Yeah, because no one wants to be a sucker. What does this say about our relationship is another one. Like, well, what kind of relationship do we even have if they're willing to do this and go behind my back? Sneakiness doesn't mean you have failed. It means your child doesn't have the skills or safety to be honest.
Right.
So, and that is something you have control over. How do I create that with them? And I know you even think about it at times. You knew kids growing up who were sneaky. Who were like, I'm even thinking of another story where I made like a bad grade, Sarah, in 9th grade. And I saw how my brother had changed some of his grades and my parents fell for it. And so I changed my grades. Not as bad as he did, because I had this like thing in my heart that said, don't totally lie. But I was afraid of them finding out I got a D. So I wanted to make it into a B. Right. And I didn't want them. It was in biology and they just would not accept that. And I knew that their response or their reaction to it was going to be way above beyond what it needed to be. And I knew that I could get that grade up. I knew I could, but I knew they would not accept that. The point is they would feel the need to come down hard. So I felt the need to deceive. So let's start with what not to do. Okay. What not to do, even though it's tempting. Okay. So these responses that we do as parents increase sneakiness over time. And we have seen this to play out. Number 1, interrogations. That does not work.
Right. As much as we wish we could just go at them,
shine that light on, wear them down,
and they would tell the truth, it actually backfires.
Yes. And the other one is surveillance parenting. Oh my gosh. Like I've heard parents
you get
putting
scared.
trackers,
Yeah.
on their car.
Yep.
I've heard them, all types of ways they're surveying them. Even lots of times sneaking on their phone without the kid knowing about it, and doing this behind their back, or even talking to people when the kid's unaware of this to find out things. And it's all under the guise of helping the kid, but the kid feels betrayed too, and they feel like I can't trust you. It doesn't.
And we're
build
not going to
trust.
get into the worries of safety and things
Sure,
like that
of course.
for this
Yeah.
episode.
Yep.
So I just want to throw that out
Mhm.
there, but just realize the relationship's going to suffer. That's going to backfire on you. That's definitely not ideal.
Okay, public shaming or immediate punishment without being curious. These reactions when we jump to conclusions, and then statements like, "Why would you do this?" It reads as judgment. It doesn't read as curiosity. It doesn't look like you're trying to really come to, why would you? It's like an accusation.
Yeah.
Why would you be this dumb? Why would you do this? And so, Brene Brown's got some great, Brene Brown's a great author on the subject of shame. And she talks about shame drives behavior underground, and connection brings it into the open. So shame will cause the kid to pull away. And then connection will help the kid be more trusting and willing to open the door to their heart and be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, that's just rich and deep, and
Yeah.
and I think it rings true. You feel it where you go, yep. Shame is going to make me hide. Shame makes me want to go undercover and not be honest or reveal myself to people around me. It's that connection, that best friend that you can tell anything to. That's the person you're going to be honest with.
Yeah.
So we want to be that for our kids.
So let's change those things. Well, let's hear those. Let's stop doing those things. But here's what to do instead. Okay. So these are practical tools. Number one, and we're big on this, and we are always practicing ourselves in our marriage and with our kids. Number one, lead with curiosity, not courtroom energy. Okay. Like don't come in. You're not a prosecutor. So lead with curiosity. Something like, help me understand what made this feel so hard to tell me, or what was so difficult, for you.
And man, you better be genuine.
Yeah.
Make sure you're genuine. Make sure you're in that perfect space to deliver this with a genuine curiosity, not I'm going to eventually get to.
Yeah. And you can feel
and
the
you
difference.
want to know.
Yeah.
You can't, and you want to know.
Yeah.
You want to know what those barriers are to them coming.
And the one who knows is them. Yeah. So if you're going to figure this out, talk to them. And your tone really matters when you do that. Yeah. So number one, lead with curiosity, not the courtroom energy. Number two, separate the behavior from the relationship. I think it's really important. And you want to say this explicitly. Don't just imply it. I'm not glad this happened, and our relationship is safe. Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, that's really important for the kid to hear, because so many times the kid thinks, oh, this is the last straw. Yep. And now I'm going to be I don't know how many kids have wanted to tell their parents something that's going on, Sarah, and they've told me, I can't because my parent might do X, Y, and Z, and typically it is break off the relationship, but this calms that attachment alarm that I'm not going to belong anymore.
Yep.
I won't be wanted.
Yep. Yep. We just can't too much make sure our kids know that they belong, and we're always there, and we love them in the messy. Yeah.
Number three, let's, Sarah and I, if you've been listening to us for a while, we're big on skill building. Behavior is about skills. So number three is focus on building skills, not just consequences. Okay. So like, what made honesty feel risky to you? Might be a great question. How come you were so scared to be honest? What support would help next time? Like, what could I do differently? How could I create a different environment? Whenever I'm doing this with parents, Sarah, it's just so cool to hear what kids will say to their parents. And if their parents are open and receptive, it really does transform their relationship.
Yeah, it's amazing. And each kid's different, so it's really important to have these conversations if you have multiple children, because what opens one, what creates safety with one can be different, know? And it's really powerful to hear from them.
And then what's the plan if this happens again? This comes up again. What's our plan? And I want you to know what we're doing here is kind of modeling to you. This is coaching. It's not permissiveness. Lots of times when people hear about, they're parenting without punishment, they move it into this gentle parenting. You're being very permissive. Kids are getting away with everything. I want you to hear from us. Like, we're coaching our kids on how to actually open up, take responsibility, and own it. But we're doing that by modeling it and saying, like, I want to own it. What made it hard for you to tell me that? And those really bring your relationship so much deeper and more. And once again, I know we say this a lot, but in our marriage, why wouldn't I want to ask those questions? If you felt unsafe to come tell me about something, or I would want to know, what was it And you might say it was you reacting big and I need to realize that, I need to own that and say, okay, tell me now, I promise you can trust that I won't react big to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have to remember that we're getting to know our kids. I think sometimes because they're born and we're with them and we think we know them, but they're developing and growing and having these thoughts and they're becoming their own person. And so we want to remain a little curious and not slip into, well, I know my kid, right? And so we want to ask these questions because we want to know, who are you and how do relationships work for you? And how is this relationship going to work as you continue to change and grow over time?
Yeah. Number 4, let's go ahead and shrink the power gap. Okay. Well, what we mean by that is sneakiness thrives in big power imbalances. Okay. And here's ways to reduce it. So we want to make sure like we're sneaky with our boss. We're sneaky when other people have power over us and we feel like that they can really hurt us or really come down hard on us. And so here's ways to reduce it is offer controlled choices. What does that mean?
Offer control choices is just, it's like handing back the power where you could come in and you could say, I'm in charge, I'm the parent, what I say goes. And it's looking for lots of opportunities to go, oh, you have the power. Let me give you the power. Where even in little things, where do you want to go eat? But it's like, it's not always just eating up the power you could take, but it's shifting the power over to other people.
Involve kids in rule setting, or I might say involve kids in setting boundaries on that. So often this is happening with phones and screens and parents will say, oh, no, I did set boundaries. And it's only what they set, and that's the key thing. I just say, did the kid have a say in that? Did the kid talk? And lots of people are afraid to ask the kid because they think the kid is going to be like, just let me do whatever I want. Like when I have talked to the kids and we're in a safe place to talk, they own it. They've seen kids overuse it. And even if your kid did that initially, your kid knows eventually that having limits is helpful to them. So you just like, okay, so you feel like well, what are some limits you might say? And when we've done this, it's worked great.
Yes, it's really powerful when your kid has that buy-in. When they feel like they have some say in it versus something, because then if it's something laid on you, you almost have this like, I gotta shove back on this.
You push it on me, I want to push it back on you. Yes.
Yeah. So if it's something like I'm choosing this, I'm creating this, how much more are you going to actually do it?
I don't even think lots of kids know that. They don't even know it's their responsibility to set those themselves.
And of course, you're building skills for the rest of their life.
And you want them to know how to do that at a young age. They can do it when they're in college.
Yeah, there's tons of benefits to it.
Also, explain the why behind limits. Like kids don't get it. They typically see it. Trust me, they see it as you controlling them because you think they're going to do bad things if you don't.
Yeah.
And that doesn't feel good.
It's not a real great motivation.
Yeah. So to us, like we talk a lot about having limits is about helping you to have self-control so you could be free to really be at your best, that without limits, it's just chaos, and that doesn't lead to safe, healthy relationships. Invite feedback when you don't change the rules. Okay. So invite feedback from the kid where they're able to like give back to you what their thoughts are about the boundaries, about the limits. Because remember, you're co-creating with the kid.
And it doesn't always mean, you may be about to say this, but it doesn't always mean that, the kid told me they wanted 10 hours to, or my curfew is 3 a.m. It doesn't mean that you're just doing what they want. It just means that you're crafting it together. You may have to hold about, this is a solid line for me. This is where you can choose, where you're looking for those places where maybe you have to have a hard line on this, but they still have power in it.
And the kid respects that. Like the kid doesn't actually want you to do everything they're saying. I'm just telling you, like, they don't expect that.
They know
that they want you to just consider it and listen. And they feel like you're not giving it any value.
Right. And if you genuinely listen, even if you have to come back and say, well, I'm sorry, I can't change it this time.
Yeah. Number 5, repair matters more than the original mistake. Okay. So trust isn't built by perfection. We said that in our the last episode, we talked about helping your teenager. Trust isn't built by perfection. It's built through repair. So asking a really great question. I love this question. How do we rebuild trust together? So how do we do that together? And there might be things you're asking the kid to do differently, things they're asking you to do differently, but this is what healthy, safe relationships are built on.
Yeah.
Okay. So we want to kind of give you a long view kind of reframe. Okay. Your job isn't to raise a child who never lies. Okay, that's not your job. Okay, that's not what success is. It's to raise a child who knows they can come back to the truth. So raise a child who knows they knows how to do that. Sneaky kids aren't bad kids. They're adaptive kids who need safer paths to honesty. That they need to, safe path to come back, be honest, to own it, to take responsibility,
That's a much better focus to have. If my focus isn't, I don't want to raise a liar, I don't want to raise this. Instead, I want to raise someone who knows how to come back to honesty.
Yeah. So if you're struggling with this with your kid and this is really hurting your relationship, I want you to understand, like, if your kid's young and this is happening, you got to take these steps now because it's going to lead into kids who are just shutting down and not opening up in the teenage years. And I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm just saying that's what the longer and longer this pattern gets in place, the harder and harder it is to do it. So lots of times people, Sarah, are bringing teenagers to me. And we're trying to undo this, but it's been many, many years of doing it.
Because they didn't know. And
Yes.
so now you're trying to shift it. Now you're learning and growing, which is fantastic. Great time to start, but you can start younger.
So I want to invite you into this kind of just reflection. Just ask yourself these questions. Where might honesty feel risky in your home? What would it look like to make truth safer than hiding? It's a good one.
Yeah.
What skill is my child missing? Not what rule are they breaking? Okay, I mean, those three, if you get nothing else with those three, will change so many things in your relationship with your kids. So we would encourage you, share this with your friends, let them know about these tips we're given to help you and help them and their child, because so many parents are struggling with this in this age of screens and phones and all of these battles happening and kids trying to hide it and have burner phones and all this kind of stuff, and we really want to just change that dialogue. So definitely, please share it with people, let them know about it. We'd love to see our audience grow because it means we're helping more families. So thank you for listening today and hope you found this very helpful. Have a wonderful day. The Art of Raising Humans podcast should not be considered or used as counseling, but for educational purposes only.